Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the fifth talk of the Faenza Prize. Today we will have the chance to meet our other artists that were selected, and it is a great opportunity to know their work, to meet them, and to meet their work in person at the 62 edition of the Faenza Prize, which will start the June the 30th. And so it is a good invitation to visit Faenza and this exhibition. So let's start with the first artist, a collective, Muscle Memory Collective. We have the opportunity to meet Bree and Joshua Clark. And I have a very first question to you regarding the name of this artistic couple. Can you tell us something about this?
Hello, good morning. Thanks for having us. I'm Bree. I'm not sure that we have a great answer for the name, but Josh and I teach together at New Mexico State University in southern New Mexico in the United States. And Josh teaches ceramics and I teach photography. And, within our program, it's a relatively small program, and we are always encouraging our students to find the best mediums and methods to express and communicate their ideas. And so, we have this very intermediate approach, and we started just experimenting. We both sort of admired each other's work, and we really weren't thinking of it as something long-term where we would be making works together. But I think the name was sort of, the fact of how we each approach our work, that it's this sort of, not always, of course, sometimes it's highly structured, but it can be very intuitive, that we have these workflows that each of us have built up over the last 15 years within our practices, that a lot of times the ways in which we're making work is sort of becomes this muscle memory, becomes this sort of intuitive approach to making work. So it's sort of hard coming up with a name. So that's what we were thinking for that. Yeah.
So you are taking care of the part of the photography, and Joshua is taking care of the ceramic and sculptural part.
That's right. Yeah. So I'll let Josh do most of the explaining with the ceramics, but it's a pleasure to be part of this prestigious biennial.
So thank you for your presence. So Joshua, the floor is yours.
Great. So
we are showing your images.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming to hear us talk and inviting us to talk. And I would just echo a little bit what Bree said, that this collaboration, we sort of started not thinking too much of it, but it's become something kind of central to both of our practices, and it's so much fun. And just always want to say thanks to Bree as well, because it's really rewarding to work with another artist. But so the ceramic works, if we could go to the next image, is that possible? Great. Yep. So this is the piece that's in the show called Air Hug. And today I want to talk mainly about the process of making it, because I think that really informs the concept as well. So if you look at the bottom part of the sculpture, we think of this process as a kind of synthesized geologic process where we are taking the byproducts of the studio, so the materials that you would normally throw away or discard, and we're firing those in a kind of gravel, if you will, into the kiln, and then fusing that together with glaze in the kiln in a sort of geologic strata. And so if you can imagine that I would make a vase, and then I would fill that vase with ceramic shards in glaze in layers and layers, and then I would put that vase in the kiln, and then I would fire it. All of that material inside the vase would fuse together, and then I would break the shell away after the firing, and then what would be revealed in the inside. So it's, instead of a normal vessel, which would have a hollowness, this is sort of showing the invisible container part of the vase. So it's sort of flipping that. The top part of the sculpture is made with resin, and maybe we could go to the next image. The top part of the sculpture is made with a resin, but first I'm creating a ceramic form thrown on the wheel out of raw clay, and then I'm pouring resin over the surface of the form. And then we're not firing the raw clay, we're submerging it in water, letting that dissolve away. And then what you're left with is this kind of hollow ghost form of the initial gesture. And this would be related to ceramics' place in sculptural art history as being the kind of initial gesture that a sculpture would be made out of, but then that would typically be translated into another material like bronze. But instead of this sort of direct mimicking, we're trying to kind of highlight the loss of the initial gesture through this process. So you see that there was a form that was there, and there's this kind of hollowness where you can see through the form. And then also using this kind of resin candy coated material that has a kind of surface attention to it, but a kind of emptiness as well. We're very much interested in the kind of consumer culture in America, and a lot of that consumer culture has that same kind of quality where you're enticed in the beginning and you really want to participate in the consumption, but once doing so, there's kind of just a kind of hollowness that's involved or feeling after that. And then the very top of the sculpture, I don't know if we have an image that maybe we could just go back to the full image. Yes, so that object draping off of the top is a hospital sock. So I don't know if you have the same thing in Italy, but if you are in the hospital, they give you this special type of sock that has these little rubber grips that so that you don't slip on the floor. And it's quite a beautiful object. It has a kind of aesthetic and design quality to it. And so we translated that object into ceramics through mold making, which is one of the things that really helps connect Bree and I's practices. So when you use a mold, it's similar to a camera where you can make additions. And this object we used for its kind of metaphorical quality of, it's kind of this soft, nice, beautiful object, but it holds something kind of psychologically unsettling that, you would maybe be wearing these when you leave the earth, when you go into the hospital, and people would have a kind of association with that. everyone's associations may be different, but it is a strange object, and that's one of the reasons we've used it.
So thank you. It seems to be a kind of existential experience, this sculpture, because it is talking about us, our contemporaneity, and our reflection on the materiality of our lives. So thank you very much, and I will pass the floor to Liza Riddle. Staying again in the States, from California. So thank you very much for being with us, because we know it's very early in the morning there. And so, Liza, we have your work selected, A Moment in Time. So can you tell us something about this?
Sure. Yeah, maybe we can look at the first slide. Actually, the first slide is not this one. It's of the entire piece. Yeah, there we go. So, hello, everybody. What we're looking at is a large wall piece. It's made up of 4 black porcelain rectangular prisms. Each of the bars are about 6 centimeters wide and 9 centimeters in depth. And the entire piece is about 80 centimeters high. And maybe we can go to the next slide. And here, these are just close-ups to show a little bit better the surface of the clay. And of course, you'll notice that has very dramatic cracks, track tiles on the surface of the piece. And what I'm trying to do with this with this work is to convey a sense of contained power, to capture a moment in time, and to really celebrate the cracking and fissure that we see everywhere in nature. And although it looks like these tiles are just ready to fall off of the piece, it's fully vitrified, so the work remains intact. And what I'm trying to do is just convey that feeling that we should all have a respect for the power, the beauty, and the fragility of nature. And I'll talk a little bit about how I make them. These are made entirely out of porcelain. Actually, it's a porcelain that comes from Spain. And I've developed a 2-stage process. So I first construct what I call a framework, and fire that clay to a bisque temperature, and then take that dry bisque piece and coat it with a very wet slip of the same clay. And it's quite a magical process. It's really fun to watch. It takes quite a while for the clay to crack, but what's amazing to me, and I don't know, somehow just fascinating with each piece, is how it cracks over the work. It always seems to accentuate the form and just add to the beauty of the piece. So that's part of the process that is really enjoyable. And the clay is not glazed. I don't use glazes. This is just the natural clay. To me, there's something just beautiful and almost seductive about that natural look of the clay. And I'll just quickly go to the next slide. This is just to show you who I am. This kind of sums it up. I'm very much interested in hiking and exploring the natural world, and I would call this image In My Element. It's a beautiful place north of the Grand Canyon in Arizona, and maybe we can go to the next slide. These are just other works that I've done that I've gotten obsessed with geometric forms. There's something just very compelling about working in geometry and natural forms. Geometry is really the basis of all the natural forms that we see. the one on the left shows you pieces that I've colored with soluble metal salts. These are the salts, in this case, of cobalt, so it adds a bluish hue to the clay. Again, there's no glaze. The soluble metals actually just sink right into the bisque clay, so there's no glassy surface to the pieces. And the ones on the right are a white porcelain. And maybe we can go to the next slide. And these are older works that I've done just to, again, show the organic forms that I like to work with and the use of soluble metal salts. So the piece on the left, the blue one, is with cobalt metal salts. The one in the middle is nickel, and the two on the right are an iron compound. And that sums it up. So that's really shows what my interest is and how I work with this clay.
So thank you, Liza. It was very nice to see you in this canyon surrounded by this beautiful landscape, which was like an image of a very big sculpture of yours. So
Exactly.
it's very interesting, this relationship you have with the nature and the respect inside your work. So leaving all these cracks and all this beautiful atmosphere, that it seems to be something very, very natural and naturally done.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you very much for your speak. And now we go to Sibylle Ritter in France, and we hope the connection will be good, Sibylle.
Yes.
And thank you for being with us. So we shift from USA to France. And the floor is yours if you want to tell us something about your conceptual object that you submitted to the Faenza Prize.
Yes, I will. So I'm waiting for the picture. Oh, no, okay. I thought it would be quite reasonable to explain how I came to make the object. And there are two aspects that are important. It's one, my affinity towards glass, which is very important, and to the ground plans that I use. So this work, which I made in 2013, is very exceptional. I came across this glass pane, this broken glass pane, and I immediately knew that I would like to incorporate it into a ceramic sculpture. So finally, I took the outlines in order to build two architectural structures on it. And it's not slab built, it's made between my fingers, it just grew. So on top, there's now the glass pane as the cover. I appreciated the contrast between the very perfect glass and the greenish edges and the beauty of the shape. So this is how I work with finds, how I work with objects that I just come across. So we are going to the next picture, which is very different. It shows a basin. I made a series of 5 basins, very pure works, just with a white stoneware clay, which wasn't high fired, in order to keep the surface pure white and silky. There's no shiny surface, despite the lines, and the lines carry a transparent glaze. So the reason why I'm showing this work is the ground plan. You can see that this is a rectangle with an apsis. This is a plan that I use very often. And if you turn this upside and let it stand on the part with a hole, you've got exactly the body of the sculpture I handed in for Faenza. So we can skip to the third one. This one again shows how I reacted towards glass. I came across the glass sticks and I just bought a bundle of them, knowing that I would like to design a sculpture and to again incorporate the glass sticks into an architectural structure. You can clearly see that I'm using this plan of the rectangle with 2 abscisses. I don't know the plural. It's a double wall structure, which is to say there are 2 sides or 2 circles and slots all over so that light could penetrate the whole structure. And the glass sticks, they reflect the light. So I could incorporate light and reflections into matter, which was the leading idea. So, which was new about this piece is that I used color. As a rule, I never used glazes or slips on my architectures because I use clay mainly as a construction material, and there was no need to add something to it. I didn't want to hide the substance. I wanted to focus on the sculpture, on the sculptural qualities. Now this one, for this one, I changed my mind. I thought it would be nice to add some yellow, which goes with the sun. And this is why it's called Chateau Héliotrope. What's funny about this title is I made this sculpture before moving to France and even for knowing that I would move to France. So now we are going to the objet conceptuel numéro 2. I didn't think, like compared to the other ones, I didn't design a sculpture. I didn't make a plan, and I didn't realize a plan that I designed in order to have a sculpture. I wanted to make a setup. A setup means it's an instrument, it's a tool. The whole sculpture is a tool that serves to show something. I needed a body with sides where glass would run down, would just be very good visible, the sides being screens. And I needed a structure to hold the glass pieces before reaching the melting point. That was all. So I used the body, which I like to work with. It's in this case, it's a rectangle, but it's barrel walled, like in churches. And so I added 2 of these shapes. Funny enough, it looks a bit like a bottle here. And so on the top, I've got this kind of fence where I could add pieces of glass. And when reaching the melting point, they would just, the glass would just leave and run down. And finally, the whole sculpture stands on its drops. And I used a matte dark glaze, and the color is the reaction of the molten glass, which is a simple glass which I found after an accident, a car accident. I kept the glass of the windows, and so the green is just the result of the reaction between the glass and the dark matte glaze. And I'm just about to continue this series of works, which I appreciate. It's really an adventure to work with this idea. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Sibylle. It was interesting to see this architecture of your sculpture, which is completely different from the one we saw with Liza, more connected with nature. In your case, it is a conceptual work, also recalling and making some connection with your memories. So thanks a lot for your introduction, and of course we will see it in presence in Faenza. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
And then we go to another artist. We will meet another artist, Davide Ronco, who is from Italy, but we can say that he is traveling Europe because now he is in Portugal for a residency of 3 months. But normally he is living in Copenhagen, Denmark.
Yes,
Yes.
precisely.
Okay, so the floor is yours, and you will
Thank you.
talk about circumstances.
Yes, perfect. So with me, as you can kind of clearly see, we go back to the nature side. Actually, as we say, circumstances, and I use also the name cairn. Cairn is simply when we stuck kind of stones on top of each other, or creating some kind of basic architecture. So I thought to name it with this simple way of kind of stacking the stones, the rocks, directly from the ground. And actually, we can go to the other slices maybe, and then come back to this one, because I think it's interesting to see. I prepared just 2 slices that shows really like where exactly the material comes, because in my practice, I tend to let as much as I can out of my own control. And in this specific case, I was digging under the ground at about 1.5 meters, and digging clay from Danish soil, and then tested and realized that you can see even better in the next slide, that I could use directly blocks of clay as they were straight from the ground. So in these 2 slides, you can see on the left is like a smaller piece, which is kind of the same size. It could even be one piece that actually is on the piece now. I don't remember now when I took the pictures. But the process is very simple. I literally take directly clay from the ground, and then some of it I processed to create the inner core of the vase. We can call it a vase. And then I literally applied the rocks straight from the ground, because I think this allows me to really leave kind of as much as possible like control on the material. Of course, I needed to do testing of firing temperatures and like how much I could push this material. But my main objective is like to try to limit as much as I can my own intervention. So hopefully, like for example, in this kind of series, because as you can see in the name, and now we can go back to the first slide, is a, oh, we lost the slide. Cairn circumstance 1, yes, because I hope to go to continue this series and especially like grow in size. In this case, it's like, I think it's about 35 centimeters, 32. And I would like to create with actually bigger blocks. Of course, I need bigger kilns, but the idea is to let as much as possible, like the material just dictate the colors and shapes and the roughness of the surface. For this reason, for example, this specific piece is unglazed, but in the future, I hope to develop a glaze with the same materials. So testing how to separate and dig in the same area minerals and charcoal and different. I know it's possible in granite, to manage to create full pieces glazed with only material that I can dig from a specific location. And to close the description, that's why the name of the piece starts with this code, these location codes, because that is precisely with a 2 meter maximum radius from the place where the clay was digged of this specific object.
So you are going to continue this series using the same clay, or you think about moving to other places?
For now, I plan to keep a bit with this clay. First of all, because I have some 200-300 kilos in my studio, which I would love to use, and I don't have space to store. And also like because I have this friend farmer with the digger that allows me to dig many meters underground. And surprisingly enough, Danish clay usually are not good for high firing, but this one is actually 1175 degrees, which is quite good to be red clay. I tested it even higher, 1250. It still resists shape, but it deformed too much to create actually objects. But it's difficult to find clays without adding material or stabilizers that can resist already a high firing at the first shot, especially in this case where I don't even mix them together. I literally just apply a little rock, so which is already less compressed than how much density will have if I wedged it myself or use an extruder or vacuum compressor or like more industrial ways to process the clay. So
it's just an assemblage.
In this case, it's really like the minimum action is literally taking the rock and apply it to a surface. And of course, it needs caring, and I needed to test how the best way so they don't fall off. But the rock, they are literally as you see them without interventions.
It's a kind of a recreation of what is in nature. Okay.
Circus dams, kind of like the name, like a circus dam of cairn, but fired in this case.
So thank you very much, Davide. Very interesting work and very unusual. But I think it's we will see the development of your research in next
hopefully
month.
In the next future.
Okay, thank you very much, Davide. Then
you're welcome.
We leave you and we go to Fausto Salvi in Italy. Fausto is connecting from Brescia. So the floor is yours if you want to introduce your work, Hydro. The microphone.
Okay, nice one. Okay. Sorry, thank you for having us here, presenting our work for the competition. And I'm trying to explain my work, which is Hydro. And let's see if I have some picture, but anyway, I'm trying to, through this work, I try to represent my fascination for technique and mechanical parts, which I always been interested in it. So, but also for the human beings' ability for to find technological solutions that guarantees our survival from the decadence of an ecosystem. The same human beings that apparently careless to the polluting process that is destroying our natural environment. So what fascinating me is the creative ability of together with the technological inventiveness of humans to solve problems of environmental and medical nature that are often created by ourselves at the end. So since the beginning of my work, of my career, part of my work is focused on ecological issues, and here with the hydro, the work for Faenza, I try to aesthetically is an interpretation of a structure of hydroponic system, which is the current, but also at the same time very ancient technique of growing vegetables in the absence of soil, where the nutrients for the plants are coming from only through the water. So the hydroponic is a very kind of popular now in many places, and maybe could be the agricultural future, because we need as much a greater production of food, and there will be less fertile land and more detached from the natural growing rhythm, so the seasons. That's it is very important. Like the environmental points are always very interesting to me to develop in my work. So in this case is maybe it's the first time I consider completed one of my works without glazing, because I wanted to show the soil, which is the earth, the clay, which is the soil for the production, which is made sterile because it's not good anymore for agricultural point, but it's becoming a material for a structural material to compose the production system, and at the expense of the original value of the soil, which is the fertility as a source of life, let's say. And the fruit of this system are very aesthetically fascinating, as could be the oil on the surface of the water, which is always very interesting and fascinating, but it's pollution at the end. And they are very beautiful aesthetically, but they are not so good in terms of, let's say, a nutritional point of view. So it can be the future of our production of food, but of course, we'll see how it could be. But anyway, this work is not coming at the certain point, but is a combination of other two projects. One is my most long-lasting project, which is experimental vegetables that still inspired by the OGM's development of OGM on the vegetables for nutritional food, and the other one is Connection. That is a team I started in 2004 when I was invited for a residency in Gmunden in Austria, and the title was Water, and I faced the theme through the lens of a social and political point of view, because these pieces are coming from that project. I still doing it because I used to continue the group of works over the years, and sometimes they combine by themselves, and it's becoming one singular project that talk about the two of them. So the experimental vegetable and the Connection that was about the water, with more than 2004 is almost 20 years ago, started to be a big problem, but apparently we didn't make any good step to solve this problem. So because the human being is a weird attitude to react to situation only when it's a very important and very dangerous point of how can I say that? When it's sometimes when it's too late, we are reacting to solve the problem. So it's intriguing me, this attitude of humans. So these are two pieces on the right side, the two orange pieces. They were the beginning of the project, the experimental vegetables. It was a series of pieces, plants into a pot where a very little detail, which was a LED lamp. It was there to express, to identify electronic heart of the plant. It was not a synthetic, but it was a plant, but with a mechanical part. And you could understand it through this little light on the pot. And I used to paint in gold, not because only for aesthetical reason, but because gold makes precious something. So, and plants and stuff are often painted by gold because to express how precious they are. This group is a pretty old group. It's like 10 years ago. Magic wood are totally covered by aluminum leaves to express how nature can be strong. At the same time, like this is a group of trees with all the branches cut, but from the inside, the very colorful inside is representing how natural life can resist and survives to any, let's say, attack generally from humans, because we are attacking every day nature. So, and the next picture, which will be the last one, this is a pretty big one. Piece is like the most more than 4 meters. Is the same idea. So is a big tree where every branches are cut, but from the center, from the inside, there is a golden part that represents the natural life that can resist and reborn again. Anyway, let's say.
So thank you, Fausto, for showing us your continuity of work, of your poetry, and especially to make the point on what is the human being can cause on our daily life and our contemporaneity. Yes.
Every day, anyway. So okay.
Yes,
we'll
Hydro is making the point, especially on a big problem that we have with the water today, and especially in Italy for our existence.
Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you very much, and we go to Velimir Vukicevic from Serbia. He's our last guest for today, and he will introduce us the work Cloud, which was selected for the Faenza Prize. So thank you for being with us, and you can start your speech.
Thank you. Okay, I have been working very long time and changing, of course, because I want to amuse myself. So I started with Maiolica figuration, and now I'm working also, I feel this like figuration, but it is in porcelain. And all my work is, what I do is looking for a form on which I can paint on. So, you know, I couldn't decide what I enjoy more. Do I like more to make a form, or I like to make a painting? Like the title of this work is Cloud or Heart. So I'm very difficult to decide in general about the things. And but I usually paint on the form something that is also dimensional. And this lately I have been slip casting, and this form was slip casted from the plaster mold. But in fact, maybe it was interesting how I made this form, because I had a little cloud similar to this one, but then while looking at it, it was really like a sketch. And then I thought it would be nice if I have a bigger cloud. And then I gave to some friends, they made 3D printing, and they enlarged, they make it 4 times bigger. So this cloud is in fact 4 times bigger than the small one that I made before, like a sketch. And so from this form, I made the plaster mold, and then I slip cast it. And I usually slip cast several forms, several examples of the same form, and I paint them differently. And I do because like this, I'm completely free. If it crack, if I make a mistake, that it doesn't matter. I have another form that I can work on. Also, when I ask myself, why do I make clouds? I think cloud is very suitable form, like it is changeable. I can change the shape, I can change the movement, I can change everything. So I'm completely boss of form, but also cloud can cause different feelings. Like it can be like floating dream if the feeling is positive, and it can be dangerous and threatening feeling if the cloud is dark. And also what I discovered lately is that I can paint almost anything on the cloud. I can put birds, I can put planets, like on this one. This is the title of this one is View from My Spaceship. And this is like how I imagine that I'm in a spaceship and that I'm seeing different planets and also clouds. And but also you can paint, you can paint flying machines. You can put on the clouds planets. You can paint wind, if you can put weather report. You can put pollution particles. You can put ghosts. You can put almost everything. And this one is also, this is the title of this one was Twinkle Twinkle. And here I use a lot of gold. I like to use silver, and especially silver I like lately. And okay, also this one was at Mino exhibition, at the last Mino exhibition in Japan. And I have two kinds of forms. This is sharp form, and the form for Faenza exhibition is more round, like a cushion. And usually if I have a sharp form, I try to paint some soft clouds. And at the piece for your exhibition, I have a soft form on which I painted some sharp parts of it. So this is my story.
Thank you, Velimir. We know perfectly your work because it is not the first time you are selected to the Faenza Prize, but it's always an evolution of your work, and it is very interesting. This nice poetry that is behind these beautiful clouds that you are presenting. So thank you very much for your introduction. And then we go all all together in connection again. And there is a question from the public regarding the theory of making. So let's try to put the question. When talking about contemporary ceramics, we often hear the distinction between the artist and the artist artisan. So what do you think about this? So I think that you all create your work, and so this sometimes this distinction is just a technical one and not a poetical one. Who would like to answer this very big question that was posed by the public?
I can try to say something.
Yes.
Well, it's a very interesting question because recently, there is a sort of trend that because, if you are an artist, if you are a ceramicist, if you are an artist in ceramic, and it's not easy, it's very hard to say, not easy, it's very hard to get into the contemporary art sphere situation because of our history. I mean, the ceramic is always connected with artisan, with craft. So it's very complicated and very hard to get into the contemporary art. And if you visit, I've been visiting in the last years, there are art fairs in Italy, but also abroad. And you see, especially in this last maybe 5 years or something, many ceramics, but most of them are made by artists who doesn't know ceramic. And an example, in my studio, many artists came to ask me to make art pieces for them. And I say, no, of course, but because I don't like it, because I used to work alone, and I believe that you should do what you are able to do. You can do the artist and make other people and ask other people make your pieces, but for ceramicists it's always complicated, and because there is this big distinction in between artisan and craft artisan and being artist. In Italy, as an example, I guess in the Mediterranean area, it's very hard to make people understand that you are a ceramicist. That means artist with clay. If you say the magic word ceramic, galleries, the interest of the galleries get down like the 50% in 2 seconds. But there is a trend now about ceramic, but not made by ceramicists, made by artists who generally doesn't know how to do, and they ask to other people to make pieces for them. So
yes,
it's a delicate question.
Yeah, it's a very delicate question, and this is a point, especially in Italy, because we have this big distinction that in other countries is not present. And we have a question for Velimir. What is your thought process when you are painting a different variation on your forms? Along what lines do you usually vary them? So what is the, so it's a very big question because it is everything. I mean, if you want to answer.
I don't know how to answer to this. What are my thoughts? I cannot answer.
Yeah, I imagine.
But I want to say something regarding the other theme that I think for me personally, it was never a problem what to make, but it was how to make. So when I don't know how to make, then I start learning technique. So this is what, and every time I change material, I change porcelain, I start learning and feel like at the beginning. And that's why I'm staying so long in ceramic, because almost at every work I feel like learning and being at the beginning. So
I think that more in your works are more like a painting that sometimes have some relief in a sculpture. So it is quite difficult to answer this question, because it is everything. So it is the concept, it is the poetry, it is all that is inside a work. So thank you very much. Thank you all for being with us. So the next meeting will be next Tuesday, and we will have the pleasure to meet Danielle Molyneux, Anya Seiler, Brooke Siegel, Nora Zmahelova, Massimo Manfredi Luccioli e Virginia Sanfratello. So also in this occasion, different situation from different countries that will meet all together in this program of talks. So thanks a lot for being with us. And of course, this talk will stay online on our YouTube channel, and you can see also the other ones of the previous weeks. And see you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you.